Hello, and welcome to Our Autonomous Future, Teslas for 7-year-olds, the audio documentary where I take you on the journey of exploring autonomous vehicles and what they hold for the future. At the beginning of 2020, I attended a media conference where one of the speakers made the bold statement that in 5 years' time, autonomous vehicles would be on our streets and that anyone under 7 will never drive.
Anyone under 7 today will never drive.
This came as a complete shock to me, and I couldn't help but to associate sci-fi predictions of autonomous vehicles, such as KITT in the classic 80s series Knight Rider.
Alright. Might as well put on some music. All these weird gadgets, you think they'd give you a radio.
What would you like to hear?
What the hell was that?
To the Johnny Cab in Total Recall, released in 1990 and based in the year 2084 on the planet Mars.
Where am I?
You're in a Johnny Cab.
I mean, what am I doing here?
I'm sorry. Would you please rephrase the question?
I also can't help but begin to have doubts that technology is taking over and associate films such as iRobot, which is set in the year 2035, and advanced technology and robots start to take over.
Please return to your homes. A curfew is in effect.
Curfew? No. It's called civilian rights. There is no curfew.
Return to your home immediately.
When you make the rules, robot.
This is why I wanted to start the journey of finding out more information, and I'll be taking you along with me. I've attended a future mobility conference, talked to the guy that sparked this whole idea off for me, testing some electric scooters in Paris, and having a chat with my little cousins and what they think of the future. During this journey, the unfortunate global pandemic coronavirus sent most of the world into lockdown, and I was actually able to explore how the future of mobility will be post-pandemic. Transport is a key aspect in most of our lives, whether it's the daily train commute to work, driving to visit friends or family, going for a cycle around the park, or even getting on a sightseeing tour bus on holiday. And certainly for me, most things I do require some means of transport. This is why when I was met with the timeline that in 5 years' time there'll be driverless vehicles commonly on the road and that people will no longer need a driving licence, it came as a shock. I thought a good place to start was to contact Alex Bainbridge, who highlighted the 5-year timeline to me and the reasoning behind me wanting to know more about the world of autonomous vehicles. Alex is the CEO of a company called Autora, which stands for Autonomous Vehicles, Sightseeing and Experiencing Tech. They are a company that deliver vehicle-based, branded, in-destination travel experiences, and their mission is to build the technology platform that will enable autonomous vehicle sightseeing on a global scale. Alex agreed to meet me at the London Excel Centre at an event called MOVE, which is the global stage for transport innovation. It was great to get the opportunity to go to MOVE and to hear more about what Alex's company are doing.
I mean, people always ask me to predict what's going to happen next year, but that's because I'm a technology entrepreneur. And you're like, well, asking me what's going to happen next year is a bit pointless because we've already built it. If you start asking me about what's going to happen in 10 years, well, it's a bit harder. But 5 years is kind of challenging because you're kind of thinking about it now. You're like, well, I think I know how to commercialize that. If you hear Google say, well, we're going to have autonomous taxi rides at the Paris Olympics 2024, or you hear Volkswagen say, we're going to have robo-taxis on 3 continents by 2025. Then you know that those are timelines that in order for them as publicly listed companies to have made, they have to be pretty sure that they're going to make. We have this concept called over-tourism, which is when far too many people go to a single attraction at the same time. Talk about London, for example. They want to move everyone to go to Richmond because they want to get people out of the centre of London. Well, one of the things you can do with self-driving cars is you can send a message to the cars and say, right, well, can we get out of the centre because we're busy. Do you drive?
I can drive.
Well, that's a waste of money because you won't need to drive in about 3-4 years.
Yeah. Nobody knows.
Well, the people who know won't say because you don't want to frighten people. It's just like that virus that's in Asia. You just don't want to tell everyone it's bad, so you just have to continue as normal. You go, here's this little digital innovation we got over here, everyone. It's going to be great.
So the MOVE event was actually back in February 2020. Talking to Alex helped me to understand the timeline of when autonomous vehicles will be on our streets, the reality of them, and also gave me an insight of how his company would use them in the sightseeing and tourism world. Seeing all the vehicles lined up and being able to sit in them allowed me to see they really are in process of being the new normal way of transport. One of my particular favourites from the event was the unveiling of an autonomous pod called Motive.
The Motive is the first incarnation of a flexible electric autonomous vehicle platform focusing on lightweight, small footprint and autonomous ready capability for mobility as a service.
That was Mike Brown, the Advanced Product and Business Strategy Director for Gordon Murray Designs, who released the Motive autonomous pod. The only way I can think to describe it is looking quite futuristic and also quite compact. It seats one person and is fit with a screen where on a normal car a windscreen would be. I can't quite imagine living in a world where, say, to get to work, I could sit in a pod, watch something on the screen and not even have to think about the logistics of driving. My next step on this journey was trying to see if I could experience any of this future mobility for myself. At the Move event, there were many variations of electric scooters, and as they weren't yet legal in the UK, I thought I would head to Paris and give them a go there. We are in the streets of Paris with my lovely friends. I'm just setting up the scooter. I've had to download an app called Lime, and I've now scanned it, put in my card details, and then I'll be off zooming. I'm currently watching my friends zooming up and down the streets of Paris on these scooters. They do go exceptionally fast, I must say, but they are great fun. We've been having a laugh on them, and we've kind of seen around the city. Oh gosh, here comes one now. You can go really fast on them.
That literally drags you.
But you don't need a helmet or anything. There's no safety requirements.
You can go on main road. I feel really small for it as well. Look how small I am.
My friends and I had a lot of fun on the electric scooters going around Paris, but as you can hear, we did start to have some doubts and issues with them. On the government website, it states that they believe connected and automated vehicles have the potential to contribute towards achieving significant social benefits to the UK, which could include fewer crashes on our roads, freedom to travel for those who currently find that difficult, and more efficient transport networks that are safer, smoother, and swifter. While this may be comforting to those in the industry and that know more about automated cars, many will have their doubts, and the government have actually funded research that looks at the public attitudes towards autonomous vehicles. When they were asked if they were likely to use automated vehicles, there were a mixture of answers. Some participants saw the appeal in not having to drive themselves around, some saw it as a last resort, and majority wanted to see formative government regulations set in place before getting into a driverless car. They also asked how the participants gained any knowledge on autonomous vehicles. Most had gained it from media coverage and science fiction films. They also said that participants were quick to associate Tesla, Elon Musk, and the Uber collision that occurred in the US.
New concerns about self-driving cars after a fatal crash involving one of those cars. Police say Uber, using the technology, killed a passenger. I must admit, at the beginning of this journey, I had similar doubts. However, gaining more knowledge around the subject and talking to people like Alex...
People used to have horses as their means of transport. What are horses now? Horses are now luxury. So they've transitioned from commodity transport to luxury. Cars will transition from being a commodity that everyone's got to being a luxury, especially for the people who used to drive when they were younger, i.e. now. So the car still exists, but it just turns into a luxury. You should not give toy cars to anyone under 7. Because anyone under 7 today will never drive.
Really?
Yes. So you shouldn't be getting them into the mindset.
It's crazy.
Because actually, if it turns out that autonomous vehicles are safer, they'll ban human drivers.
Looking at autonomous vehicles from this perspective has eased any doubts that I did have. I found that the more knowledge I've gained throughout this journey, the less apprehensive I am for the future of mobility. I thought it would be quite interesting to go and talk to my 3- and 6-year-old cousins, as it may be the case that they won't even need to learn how to drive.
Hi, Jamie, I'm 3. I'm Harrison and I'm 6.
When you grow up, do you want to learn how to drive?
Yes, because it will be fun driving around at Grandma Angie's house.
At Grandma's What if I told you, if one day you never had to drive a car, that the car would drive itself?
It would be fun driving itself because you would get in, just press one button and you don't use a steering wheel. It will just move on its own.
When you grow up, what do you want to be?
A racing car driver. A boat driver. No, not that. A racing car driver.
But what if you don't need to drive a car?
Now just walk.
Although the boys may not fully understand what I was talking about, they were quite excited by the idea of a driverless car. But they did still express that they wanted to be racing car drivers when they grow up. And it does make me wonder if Alex is right that we shouldn't be giving kids toy cars, as they may never even learn how to drive. For the next stage of my journey, I had planned on exploring the field of people's trust issues that surround the future of technology. However, I could not have predicted that a global pandemic would have prohibited this.
From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
We're being told to urge people to stay indoors. Reports are coming in now.
If you don't follow the rules, the police will have the powers to enforce them.
Please return to your homes. A curfew is in effect.
Return to your home immediately.
Better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again.
A slight twist there from the UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson, our Queen, and the film I, Robot. But in all seriousness, there has been a time where most of the world has gone into lockdown, and I can't help but wonder what this means for the world of autonomous vehicles. So just a reminder of what Alex mentioned back in February 2020.
That virus that's in Asia, you just don't want to tell everyone it's bad, so you just have to continue as normal.
So I thought it would be a good idea to give them a call and discuss further of what the future now holds for autonomous vehicles.
That 75% of the sightseeing industry is basically going bust is solvable by having this AI-driven, self-guided service. Because you don't want a tour guide, so you can have an AI tour guide. Because I thought I had a couple of years of more research. So we're launching all these little bits just to get the testing right, just to understand if it works or not. But I've just said, right, so the last 3 months, 4 months, I've just built the whole thing. So we've now finished. Sarah, the sightseeing robot, which I think is her name now, the whole thing, the thing that I thought were going to take 2 years, done in 4 months.
Because the more I found out about them, the less issues I had with them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought it was more and more fascinating the more I found out. And then when this came, I kind of thought even if people did have trust issues with getting in a driverless vehicle or using a scooter, whatever, if they had the option of an electric scooter to work than getting on a really crowded tube.
The vehicles are coming, but the companies who are all creating vehicles, they need two different types of skill. First is kind of the urban planning kind of city impact. And the second is these kind of experiences, going to a restaurant and then going to a theatre, being coordinated by an autonomous car. So your car drops you off at a restaurant, goes and parks around the corner. You come back out of the restaurant, you jump back in your car, it takes you to the theatre. So we have all these different methods of creating transport, but you need the layer on top that makes it all interesting.
The point of me going on this journey was to find out more knowledge on autonomous vehicles, the future of them, and how these would fit in with daily life. Statements such as children under 7 won't be needing a driving licence certainly puts into perspective how close we are to this new reality of mobility. And of course, I could not have predicted the awful global pandemic being part of this journey, but I do think the future of mobility will hopefully adhere to the new normal that we may be seeing in the foreseeable future.